Good afternoon and welcome to Bordeaux Unpicked. Will Hargrove in the chair this week, replacing Mr. Muller, who is off doing something terribly important, I'm sure. But I'm joined by two of our usual candidates, Mr. Eccles.
Yeah, Muller was quite annoyed about you kicking him off his own podcast.
But that's good, excellent. It'll keep him awake. And our scribe in chief, Mr. Seddon.
Good afternoon, Will.
Brilliant. Well, it's an interesting week, this one, because it's between us launching the Mercs offer last week, and Mitchellville that's coming on Monday the 12th, almost certainly. So this is a sort of and it's also a short week from a Bordeaux point of view. May is often one of the key months of Entrepreneur, and this year it looks like being comfortably the key month. But there are not only UK bank holidays on some Mondays, but there's also French sort of national saints days, whatever. So they tend to do the Pont. So last week, Thursday was a holiday and Friday therefore becomes one as well. Although we'll come on to one little release that there was then. And then this week, the same thing again. They're off on Thursday, so Friday will be quiet too. But as I sort of alluded to there was one late last Friday, which was Chateau Beauchesur in Saint-Emilion, really up-and-coming estate under Josephine Dufaux there, but not one that we particularly offer. But yeah, something to look out for. If you like your proper Saint-Emilions, then definitely a wine we would recommend. I suppose that moves us on to this week. And Aaron, where do things start this week then?
Yeah, yesterday was pretty busy. Back in the office after a long weekend, and Cheval Blanc out at 825 for a 3. Under anything available in the market. They did the thing that we've been asking the Chateau to do, which is release under any available in the market. There has been a little bit of, from what we've seen at the moment, there's been a little bit of chateaus either just releasing 30% under their 2023 prices, or actually going through what's available in the market and releasing at the cheapest available vintage. If you release at the cheapest available vintage, it makes everything work. And I think it did. Good wine, Guido.
I would agree with that. Yeah, Aaron, we tasted there with Pierre-Olivier Clouet, who is doing great things at Cheval Blanc, and I really wanted it to be out at a good price because I've really liked the wine, and I think it's one of the wines of the vintage, frankly. So very heartening to see that they've done the right thing. I don't think it's an out and out no-brainer, just in the sense that if you are a follower of the estate and if you do particularly like the wine as we do, then I think it makes great sense. Is it necessarily a wine that everybody must have in a collection? No, not necessarily, but it's a really good wine at a very compelling price.
I mean, you tasted through the majority of the Cabernet Franc heavy wines as well in 2024. Was this sort of the favourite one that you thought, and difference from the Merlot heavy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Merlot has done very well on the right bank, I think, in 24. And I think we, as a theme, saw possibly a little more Merlot in blends than we would habitually see. So I think, there was a real overperformance possibly by the Merlot in Pomerol and Saint-Emilion. But having said that, I mean, Cabernet Franc is such a characterful grape when used in the right way, as it has been here at Cheval Blanc. So yeah, very much so. I would say that you should seek out those great examples. I mean, we didn't taste other sort of famous examples of Cabernet Franc, so it would be interesting to read people's tasting notes on the likes of Lafleur and things. But yeah, it's definitely a wine to look out for.
Yeah, and we were sort of shooting the breeze with Pierre-Olivier over an informal, but I have to say very well done lunch. And I was just looking back on my phone at the dreaded bottle shots, and we had 14 and 04, and actually they both were really delicious over lunch. So there seems to be a chateau that can cope with the 4 on the end. But yeah, it was interesting, and he's yeah, as you say, a good guy there. And I mean, I guess that led into Lynch, didn't it? So
yeah.
A big wine for Entrepreneur, generally in terms that it's a big volume producer, a wine with a loyal following, lunch bags as people used to call it, but I think that's went out the window, and the precision in the winery are quite something. But it sort of, again, Aaron, seemed to get sort of slightly close but no cigar, or how do we feel about it, do you think?
Look, I mean, yeah, maybe in any other year when the market wasn't as tricky as it is now, 360 for 6 Lynch Barge would be people would be snapping your hand off. I mean, you've got to go back to 2010 with those releases when everything was at the height. Lynch Barge was at 115 a bottle on release, so it's basically half the price now. And it's always a very good wine, classic Pauillac, tons of sort of minerality and that textbook sort of black fruit. I always think it's excellent. But yeah, I think talking to everyone in the sales team, it wasn't. It didn't go as it wasn't snapped up. Which it's been the same thing with Ponticane this year, hasn't it? As well, it's come out at exactly the same price. People will decide later in the campaign, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute prime candidate for that. Yeah, people will come back at the end and go, maybe I want a wine from each commune, or 3 or 4 wines for the cellar. And I think actually, I think they're pretty close to having done a very good job with that. And I thought the wine was good, and we only tasted it once, didn't we? But
Yeah, I mean, £60 a bottle for Lynch Barge in bonds is, it's great value. Yeah, if you stack it up against the market price, you would say, okay, potentially they could have done a little bit more, but I think, £60 for a wine of that caliber is pretty compelling. I liked it a lot when I tasted it. I think the 23 was such a massive wine. It was such a sort of long-term bruiser for, in a good way, for real cellaring. The 24, I think, will also need some cellar time, but I think it will be approachable significantly earlier. And I like what they're doing at the estate. I mean, the new setup is incredible. I mean, what they've done to the Shay and everything, it's a bit like being in a very high quality sort of airport terminal or something. But it's enormous, but it's very, very impressive indeed.
Yeah, it's the first chateau that you run past on the Medoc Marathon as well.
Oh, here we are showing off already.
After you've
that one in there.
after you've run 5K, you get a nice glass of Lynch Barge, which really sets you up for the next.
The Blanc or normally is it
The
a red?
red.
Oh, okay. You probably want a bit of Sauvignon Blanc at that point.
Yeah, it was quite chunky to get stuck into. But, yeah, we'll see whether it sells. I think something today. I mean, there's been quite a few releases, but something that really didn't hit the mark for us was Smith at the feet. 372 a 6.
I mean, geographically, yeah, exactly. A long way from Lynch, and certainly if you run past that on the Medoc Marathon, you've gone the wrong way. Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, I think both their red and white are wines that sort of people want to follow in a way. But yeah, it's just hard to make a case for people sort of spending their hard earned at this point on the wine. Although we liked it, we liked the wine, but yeah. Slightly disappointing, a bit of a misfire there, I think.
Yeah, agree with that. Nothing particular to add to that one. I do like the wine, but yeah, it has to be the right price for people to buy.
One then moving on that I had a bit of an argument with Joe Muller today over Montrose, released at £507 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
Joe thought that it just wasn't compelling.
It's tricky. Unusually, I can see both sides of the argument here. I mean, I know he was probably saying you can buy 17 or 21 for less and that sort of thing, and I get that. I think though, if you look, when I saw the price come out initially, I was like, oh, that's a good price. That feels like the right kind of price for Montrose. That's serious chateau, probably amongst the 10 best left bank wines. In terms of sort of being a super second, and it feels about right. 17, I had to look back at my notes about, but they've been in good form. 22 and 23 were both pretty proper, and I mean, Santa Steph's about as proper as they get in a way. So yeah, I can understand making an argument either way on that one.
I mean, look, it's for me, Montrose has first growth quality, especially the way that they are now farming, and they've got this terrace that they take the main plots from to make the Grand Vin. I really do think that, especially in the top years, it always competes with the first growths. It's just a bit of a shame. Again, just down to one of those things. I think in other years where it wouldn't be as price focused, maybe there would be a lot of people clamoring to get Montrose for under £100 a bottle. It's just not the case this year.
It was one of the wines we didn't manage to taste, actually, so it's hard to say in terms of quality. But I mean, I see it has been scored very highly by certain people. It's almost as far as you can drive, basically, and still have vineyards around you on
Yeah.
on that drag in Santa Steph, isn't it? So it's a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, but while we're on the topic of Moreys, I know people often see it as quite a monolithic wine, and I'm again a little bit like you were saying about Lynch earlier, the 23. But it can be impenetrable in youth. But I mean, for those who might have it, I've had a case of Dame de Moreys 05, and I've finally got about 3 or 4 bottles into the dozen, and the last one I had was absolutely delicious. So I would strongly recommend Moreys, but it is probably one of the wines that is for the more patient amongst us. I think it's fair to say. But yeah, very proper, and I wouldn't disagree with the sort of first grade quality comment there either.
Yeah, I think that and Layerville Last Castle always take the longest to come around, don't they? Really, from the left bank.
Yeah, so fair point.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a very good little segue. It's almost like you did that deliberately to Talbot, which has come out and is the sort of second of a bunch of Saint Juliennes that are kind of, I always think, in the same sort of ilk price wise. I mean, okay, statistically there might be variance, but if you look at things like Groix de la Rose, you look at things like Branair, Bechevel, Talbot, Gloria, there's a whole host of them, and I think the pricing there kind of makes sense. And I think they've been on a good run. I mean, it's not, and I say this sort of from a point of positivity, it's not always necessarily the most exciting choice to go for Talbot. You sort of feel it's a sort of bit of a sort of classic British sort of conservative claret, but actually it's really, really delicious and drinking well. And I think when people come back at the end and go, look, let's have, and I include myself in this, and maybe I'll get a couple of 6s from Saint Julien. It's always such a good commune. Branair and Talbot at those kind of prices would be up there for me.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it had some racy fruit to it, which wasn't a word I used much this vintage, and it was poised and elegant. I thought it was very deftly done. So yeah, I would give my thumbs up to Talbot this year.
They are, yeah. It's always a great estate to visit, as you said, and we pointed out last week. There's so many Saint Juliennes coming out at great prices. Maybe at the moment, just for my money, it'd be Branair de Creux at 159 a 6.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make much of an argument with that.
Yeah, it's really good.
So yeah, I mean, that really kind of sums up most of what's gone on this week. As we said, it's a pont for the French Thursday, Friday, and we had Monday off. So there's only so much you can really release in 2 days, but the campaign's going on at some pace.
Yeah, it's a good thing that there's lots of releases. I mean, even last week there was Contamel out and La Lagune. They're always one of our Bordeaux buyers, Mark Ditcham, one of his favourite estates for his cheapies along the same lines of Angleday. They didn't really get much clamour this year. The reviews for them were a little bit
Subdued.
yes, for want of a better word. Yeah, I think that they really struggled this year.
I think that's a place that Bordeaux's in, that really wines of that level, which are really producing great stuff, you don't need to necessarily buy every vintage. We have to be honest about that. Those wines you can probably still find 19, 20, 22 that you'll be drinking 2 or 3 years from now, and they'll be delicious. So
And on a similar theme, we've had a bit of interest in the sweet wines from 24. So I mean, we have got a little list of availability there. So give us a shout if that's of interest, because there are some good wines. The whites in 24 are very good, and there were good levels of botrytis for the sweets as well. So there are some decent pickings there.
You get a magnum of Doisy Dane for what is it, for £55? It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, given the amount of effort, that goes into making those wines, it's sort of criminal that they're not more popular than they are. But yeah, I think there'll be some, and we'll probably do a dry white selection towards the end. I know we've got Paulin Calvé from Pic Cailloux, which is one of our faves, coming in late next week to taste. So yeah, I mean, that really pretty much sums us up. It's a nice short one. There are some advantages to Mr. Muller taking a podcast off, but it's a little bit of a summary of a 2-day week. And next week we'll be back to summarise something similar. But really looking forward to the Mitchellville wines coming out on Monday. So there we go. Thank you for listening from me.
Yeah, short and sweet.
Thank you from me. See you next time.